What's up, guys? My name is Diana Kulian. I am the recipe hacker and the co-founder of Truly Nutrition. And guys, today we're talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that is cookies. Guys, this is a giant platter of one of my favorite cookie types, which is a white chocolate macadamia nut cookie. And back in the day, I had a recipe and it was full of the traditional cookie ingredients. There was butter, there was white flour, there was regular processed refined sugar in it, and then there were white chocolate chips that were also full of sugar and all kinds of things that were not good for me, but I loved those cookies. And in fact, my husband loved those cookies so much that I would make them almost every year for Father's Day. And so this year, guys, it's Father's Day this weekend. I wanted to make our favorite cookies. However, I wanted to give it a healthier spin. And so I did what I do, which is hack the recipe to make it have more protein, no sugar, lower carbs, healthier fats, and really take it from something that is going to spike your blood sugar and lead to weight gain and turn it into usable, highly nutritious fuel that tastes exactly like a cookie. So I was thinking that it would be great to teach you how to do this with your own favorite cookie recipe. You know, it seems like most families, they have that cookie recipe that's been, passed down from generation to generation, or it's just, it's dad's favorite cookie or it's mom's favorite cookie. And so I don't know that recipe that you have, but I know that you know the recipe in your family that everybody loves, and that's kind of expected that you have it on certain occasions. So I want to talk to you today about taking your cookie recipe and making it healthier. So guys, we want it to taste the same, right? You know exactly how it's supposed to taste, and we want it to taste the same, we want it to look the same, but we want it to be filled with just way better nutrition so that you can avoid weight gain, you can have plenty of energy, and really, guys, it's about overall health, okay? So I'm gonna walk you through what I swapped out in this really traditional white chocolate mac nut cookie recipe. Guys, most cookie recipes, like the core ingredients are always the same, right? And so what I've done here is I've kind of divided the ingredients, and first we're gonna talk about ingredients that are in most cookie recipes that I never change. They stay the same, whether it's, an unhealthy traditional cookie or a cookie that's been like supercharged with nutrition and is much better for you. Okay, so the ingredients that will never change, we will leave them in, and you don't have to touch them in your recipe. We have salt. Now, the only difference is that I do like to use a Himalayan pink salt as opposed to like a white processed and refined salt, but the measurement is exactly the same. So you're gonna keep your salt, you're gonna keep your baking soda, right? There's nothing wrong with this. This helps our cookies to grow in the oven in the baking process. So you're gonna keep your baking soda exactly the same. So guys, if you have your recipe, you can pull it out and kind of just go down the list. It's like, okay, salt, baking soda, we're leaving that the same. Our vanilla extract, you're gonna leave it exactly the same, right? No need to change this for anything else. There's nothing in here that we're trying to avoid. And then your eggs. Most cookie recipes have eggs. Guys, leave them in. It's a great source of protein. Now, if you want to avoid eggs, this is something that's really simple to do, is to take 1 tablespoon of ground flax and mix it with 3 tablespoons of water, and that's the equivalent of 1 egg. So if you run out of eggs or you just want to make cookies without eggs, that is something that you can do because the eggs are really binding that dough together so that you have a cookie that sticks together. Okay, now the last ingredient that you're not going to swap out, you're going to leave it, is if there are any nuts in your recipe. So my white chocolate mac nut cookies have mac nuts in them, right? And I got a dry roasted and salted mac nut here, and I leave that in just the way it was, the unhealthy version of the recipe. So all of these ingredients, guys, we're gonna leave them. We're not gonna touch them. We're gonna use them. Okay, that leaves a lot of other things though, right? We've got the fat source, we've got the sweetness, so the sugar, and then we've got the flour. So we need to address that. And then we have the chocolate chips. Okay, so we're going into the fats, the carbs, and the sugars. And that's where we're gonna focus on swapping these ingredients out for ones that have better nutrition, and they're gonna help us reach our goals. Okay, so let's start with the fat. You know, most cookie recipes call for butter, which if butter is a part of your diet, there's no problem there. You can leave it in. I really like using coconut oil. And guys, when you swap it out, you do it 1 for 1. So my recipe here for these cookies, it was half a cup of butter. And so I just swapped it out for half a cup of coconut oil. It's nice to have it nice and soft. You never want to melt the coconut oil when you're mixing cookie dough. You just want it nice and soft, just like you have your butter nice and soft before you start to beat that for cookies. Okay, so that's the fat source. You can swap it out for coconut oil, or you can leave it and use butter. The next thing is sugar. So this recipe, the original recipe, called for a cup of firmly packed brown sugar, which is a refined sugar product that has a lot of sugar grams that are going to impact your blood sugar, impact your weight. So guys, a very simple swap, and this is typically, it can be 1 for 1, is to use the brown swerve. So guys, actually, I'm going to show you what it looks like. It looks a lot like brown sugar. It's just a little stickier. Like, you know how brown sugar does stick together? It's like this. The brown swerve, it just sticks together a little bit more, but it really has that same consistency. Guys, this doesn't have any grams of sugar in it, which is why I like to use it when I make cookies, so that we're not, adding in that refined sugar that's really gonna lead to the weight gain. Okay, I do often, like if I'm taking a regular recipe and I'm swapping it out for these healthy ingredients, I do like to do a little bit less swerve than it calls for in sugar, just because, this is pretty sweet. And as you kind of train yourself off of refined sugar, your palate is gonna want things to be a little less sweet. Okay, so you can play around with that. You can definitely, if your recipe calls for 1.5 cups of brown sugar and you wanna do 1.5 cups of brown swerve, that's fine. You can try it out. But I'm guessing that over time, you're gonna wanna kind of reduce the amount of swerve per, sugar in the original recipe. Okay, so next ingredient is going to be, in the traditional recipe, it was refined sugar. We are going to use our granular swerve, which this is supposed to be like white granular sugar, guys. It's a little, it looks similar, but it's just a little more like powdery. Whereas like refined granular sugar is more clear, and this is more white and powdery. Does the same thing. So just like the brown swerve, I'm putting a little bit less of this granular swerve than the original recipe called for. So we're doing a 1/4 cup of this granular swerve. And guys, I'm gonna post a link to the recipe here. Since we're just sort of focusing on how to swap recipe or ingredients out, I'm kind of trying to teach you so you can do this for your own recipe, but I will put a link to this actual cookie recipe so you can make this one, because it's amazing. So if your favorite cookie recipe is white chocolate mac nuts, then you're in for a treat here. Okay, the next ingredient that most cookie recipes have is flour. Right? It's a huge part of what makes a cookie is refined white flour. And this is a fun one to swap out. You definitely have options, but if we want to do something that's really surefire and there's not a lot of calculation involved, almond flour is a great substitute for refined white flour. Okay? You could do it 1 for 1. So if you were doing your traditional cookie recipe and you swapped out the sugar, you swapped out the fat, now you got to the flour, and let's say it calls for 2.25 cups of white flour, you can swap it right out 1 for 1 with almond flour. What I like to do is I like to also add in protein. So when you do that, you have to take away some of the flour so that you can add in protein. And this is not a 1-for-1 situation because protein is going to absorb more of the liquids and more of the moisture in the batter. And so you have to balance it out. So if what we're doing here, it was 2 1/4 cups of refined white flour. And so what I've swapped it out for, it's 1 1/2 cups of this almond flour and then 2/3 a cup of our frosted vanilla cake whey protein powder. Guys, I can't tell you enough how much I love baking with this frosted vanilla cake whey protein powder. It adds amazing flavor to everything that you bake with. It has a really great consistency. You guys know that it has the cleanest ingredients, stevia, monk fruit, all of that. But the crazy thing is you can't tell that it's in the cookie. And I think that's really important. Like what it's doing for us is it's dramatically increasing the grams of protein in each of these cookies. Because guys, we know that most of us are eating about 15% of our calories are coming from protein, but we want to increase that so that it's closer to 30 to 40% of our calories is coming from protein. Well, how do we do that? Obviously, having protein shakes throughout the day, increasing the amount of protein in each meal, and then when you're gonna have a cookie, why not have a cookie that has several grams of protein in it as opposed to a cookie that has no protein in it, right? And so this protein powder, it adds a wonderful vanilla flavor, which really is a great addition to most baked goods, especially most cookies already call for vanilla. So it's like enhancing the vanilla that you already want in your cookie, but then past that, you don't realize that there's protein powder in there. And it's hugely important, especially when you make a big platter of cookies and you want to take it to an event and you want to, share it with your family and there's kids and, people who aren't looking to really eat something that's super healthy. They eat this cookie and they just think it tastes great. They don't realize that they're eating this high quality protein powder and that the nutrition is so much healthier for their body. They're getting the benefit that they want, which is a delicious cookie. So guys, that's what I do with swapping out the flour. So if you want to swap out just almond flour for the traditional flour, you can do it 1-for-1. If you want to do some of the flour as protein powder, you got to be a little bit trickier. So if the recipe calls for 2 1/4 cups of white flour, doing 1 1/2 cups of almond flour and 2/3 a cup of the frosted vanilla cake whey powder is a ratio that has worked for me. So I'd say that's a great place to start with that. Okay guys, the final ingredient that we swapped out to make it healthier are the chips. And these are Lily's white chocolate baking chips. These are so good. And they're sweetened with stevia. So while traditional chocolate chips or white chocolate chips, they have that refined sugar in it. And so it's, opening us up to weight gain and really changing the nutritional profile of the cookie. Using the Lily's chips, you get the same flavor, you get the same experience, but you're not putting that sugar into your body. So this is a very simple swap. This brand, Lily's, they have several different types of these chocolate chips. So if your cookie recipe that you're swapping out calls for dark chocolate or milk chocolate, they have like a caramel flavored one. So yeah, check them out. And they're in most grocery stores now and also online, Amazon, you can get it anywhere. And that is a very simple swap for the chocolate chips or the white chocolate chips that go into your cookie. Okay, guys, so to review, it is so simple to take your favorite cookie recipe, to make some really easy ingredient swaps, to just swing the pendulum of the nutrition in your favor. Right? We make cookies and we love to give them to people and share them with the people that we love because we're trying to do something kind for them. When I just think of giving my kids this cookie versus a cookie that's full of sugar and full of refined carbs, I just feel better about it, right? Like we all want to have good health and we all want to enjoy a cookie. So it's a very simple way to get what everybody wants, but to give your body better nutrition in the process. And it's fun. I mean, this is something that I really enjoy doing. It's a challenge, right? When you've had this dessert that's so good and everyone loves it, and you're like, I'm gonna make it healthier for you guys, and you're not even gonna notice it. So it's a really fun challenge, and everybody benefits in the end. So guys, if you want help with swapping out your family's favorite cookie recipe, go ahead and DM me on Instagram. It's Diana Koulian on Instagram. I would be happy to look at your cookie recipe. And guys, you know, it's not an exact science. There's definitely some art involved, but this really is a good formula for taking any cookie recipe, taking out the sugar, reducing the carbs, and really increasing that protein. So it's a usable, nutritious snack that tastes just like a normal cookie. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and you got some tips that you can really take home to your family, take it to your kitchen, you know, get some of these healthier ingredients. I really recommend this protein powder because it's such an easy way to increase the protein in just delicious desserts and baked goods. So guys, thank you for watching. If you want to get the protein, it's truling.com. And if you would like more cookie recipes where I've already done all the calculations for you, it's realhealthyrecipes.com. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of cookie recipes. Some of them have the protein powder added in, some of them don't. They're all low in sugar or zero sugar and no grains, and they taste good and they're good for you guys. So I am going to be back next week with another recipe for you. I hope all of the fathers out there have a wonderful Father's Day. And again, if you want me to look over your recipe that you're trying to swap out, just DM me on Instagram at Diana Koulian, and I would love to help you out. So guys, have a wonderful weekend, and thank you so much for watching. Take care.